Hi, how you doing? This is part 2 of the interview with Josh Barnett. And in this one, we talk a little bit about how people can get involved in catch. Because, let's face it, it's pretty tough. But we also talk about what those of us that are already involved in catch need to be doing to help promote it. And interestingly, at Josh's instigation, we talk a little bit about the parallels between HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts, and catch wrestling. I get a lot of people messaging me out of the blue saying, I really want to learn catch. Is there anyone near me? How can I do it? What's your advice to those people? Because I remember some years ago, you and I had a very similar conversation, I think over dinner after training. And you said to me, just grapple. Find someone somewhere and just do it. Is that still your opinion? Just get out and
Yeah.
learn to fight?
Yes. I tell people there's a wealth of information that you can glean online. Like, I've got my instructionals with BJJ Fanatics. And if you find a decent jiu-jitsu or MMA school, you go there and train. You find or bring a buddy with you. You guys can, on the side, before and after practice, train
Yep.
catch stuff on your own, and try to incorporate these things into your roles and into your grappling sessions or into your MMA sparring, whatever the case may be. You can do that if you are motivated and you want to. Like, there's tons of resources out there. If you want to find a school specific with catch, coaches and fighters, that's really hard
Yeah.
that's a really hard thing to accomplish. And even then, I'll say it, look, people come up to me or write to me and asking to be a part of this, and I generally tell everyone no, because I just don't have the time for it. And I'm not looking to start a school at this point in time. I want to train people that want to be professional fighters.
Yep.
And I know that emphasizing towards MMA versus like just strictly grappling oriented stuff, it in some sense, I guess it makes it less about catch specifically because of the striking elements and everything. But to me, like, I'm going towards what I feel the highest competition environment is, and
Yeah.
that's the thing with the least amount of restrictions
Sure. And
and the
let's face
money.
it, that's you, right? Yeah, you're the catch guy, but you're also the MMA guy as well. So, it'd be crazy not to do that.
Well, and look, I don't. I always hate bringing it to the discussion this way because it sounds so egotistical. But I mean, part of the reason why Catch became a household name is I'm one of those people because I went
Yeah.
out there, won the IBJJFs, won Metamoris, competed in all these high level things, winning world titles, being at the top of the ladder board by being a catch wrestler.
Yes.
And that's what put it into people's minds. Same with Sakuraba and some other folks. But
Yeah.
as much as me and Sakuraba have a lot of overlap, he started to decline as I was still on my rise. And I'm in America, he's in Japan, so we're all hitting different markets at different times,
Yeah.
and it's helping. But now that I'm not competing, really, it's kind of difficult, right?
Yeah.
And while I'm still producing MMA fighters that have deep catch cam background under me and throwing these tournaments, it's few and far between that I see the same amount of effort out there. And it's just so much lower numbers. But I think that if we had some competent athletes that were really interested in competing at a high level, yeah, they could go out and start winning some tournaments. And I mean tournaments that matter. And it's
Yeah.
cool that people go out there and win Nagas and local stuff and get on the mats as much as possible, and definitely support the efforts on the local scene to try and give a place for people to go out there and compete. But you got to go out there and win the big stuff, and you got to be
Yeah.
successful in the things that people actually pay attention to. Otherwise, it just doesn't matter. And I hate to put it that way, but we're looking at the big picture. That's just kind of the way it is.
Yes.
Um, And there have been some guys that have thrown some tournaments in the past that I actually felt were more of a detriment to our cause than a benefit.
Yeah,
So there is that too. But at the
yeah,
end of the day, you can't stop people from doing things like that. The biggest thing you can try and do is build something that's just that much better, has that much more interest, and is that much more shiny and interesting to those who watch it and those who would like to compete in it.
yeah,
And that's where that ACWA catch wrestling tournaments that we do.
yep,
It's the American Catch Wrestling Association, and we do intend to take it out of Southern California when we can. But before we can conquer the world, we gotta be able to successfully field consistent and high level events out here in California. And um, we will have done. I think we're gonna have three this year, and
okay,
we had one or two last year. We had some breaks, COVID notwithstanding, but just difficult to organize things. And we've
yep,
had a tournament that had as many as 60 plus competitors once.
okay,
So we're working on it, but we also need catch wrestlers to show up. And
yeah,
as much as I love new blood, I love the jiu-jitsu guys that when they show up and everyone, but uh, there are gyms near and far that are catch wrestling schools that didn't send a single competitor,
yes,
not a single one, not a one. And it's disappointing.
yeah. You've got to wonder why they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if the point is to go out there and compete, why why is there no but why are you not putting people on the mats? And the thing is, I say this with zero hypocrisy because I do send my guys out all over the place.
Yeah,
I've sent them everywhere I could think of. I've flown them places. I've uh, put up money to get like a cheap motel for them and helped them out, because to me it was not just important to get my athletes some competition experience, and especially in something that is catch, but to do so in a way to help elevate the tournaments themselves, elevate the skill of them, the competitors, and keep them going. Because if they don't exist, then there's nowhere to do it. And
yeah,
I'm not trying to see catch just die with a slow whimper by being fully integrated into jujitsu as its new flavors and then recalled some ridiculous name or
yeah,
claimed by someone as if he invented it whole cloth.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a bit of that, isn't there? But it's probably best we don't take the negative route. Um,
No.
so so what can we do to help? Well, I've got hopefully a few people watching this video.
Mm-hmm.
What can they do? What can I do? What can we as an international community do to help your athletes and catch in general?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, one, get on the mats. That's where the love happens. That's where the camaraderie comes from. That's where the benefit, outside of even just the skills that you learn as a martial artist, because this is a martial art, um, are not. It's not just about those skills being enhanced and incorporated into what you do, but there's the time spent with everybody else, the camaraderie and the brotherhood and
Yep.
everything that comes with that. And that's
Yeah.
a big part of just people's lives in general. And do it in such a way that it is encouraging people to be there, but also pushes them to ask more of themselves and find a way to compete. Now, I know not everybody is out there to be a competitor, and I respect that, but there are those that can. And with that, when someone sees you on the mat hitting a hammer lock, they're like, "Well, how'd you get into that?" And I go, "Well, let me show you." Or a face lock,
Yeah.
or having great top pressure and takedowns, and maybe riding from head and arm, Keizagatame, where
Yeah.
most people wouldn't, and say, "Well, I thought they would just take your back." It's like, well, yeah, only if you don't really know the position.
Yeah. Feel free
However,
to
if you know
try.
how to ride it, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just things of that nature, and people see it more and more and more and more, then they want to do it. And
Yeah.
from that, support your local tournaments in general, especially if they're a catch wrestling tournament. Go out there and go and compete, and see where you excel, see where you don't, and take that information to go back to the training lab and come back better and stronger than ever. And you can't always be there in person, but even just tuning in on something, that's a help.
Yeah.
If you really do like what it is that Catch brings to the table, then support it.
Yes.
And if it's one thing I think we suffer too much from, and yes, critique and criticism is necessary. We're putting that out here as we speak at the moment, but don't spend all your time breaking things down constantly or complaining that things are not the way you want them to be. Instead, put more effort into direct action, direct
Yes.
building,
Absolutely.
creation, or even if it's not your creation, that's fine. Be a part of it. If it's so important for you to be for it to be a certain way, create it.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take a fortune to throw a tournament, but it does take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of organization, and it takes a lot of hustle to grow the sport. You got to grow the sport in its entirety. You got to be a part of the process. I know, and everybody's going to get along with everybody, and that's okay. But we got to get athletes out there, and we have to make it attractive for athletes to want to be a part of what we're making. And personally, I'm trying to make what we do and reach out to as many high level folk style collegiate wrestlers as possible. I feel like if you want
Yeah.
kick ass, dedicated, legit athletes, that's where you're going to get them from. And to show them that, like, basically, this is just folk style wrestling with submissions.
Yeah.
That is an easy sell.
Yeah. Absolutely. What was? Oh, there's a lovely interview with DC, isn't there? Where
Yeah.
he's talking about, why did nobody tell me there's a jiu-jitsu that's wrestling? And that's exactly it. If you've already got that incredibly high level wrestling ability, why not? Why?
Exactly. But our struggle here is this. And, it's unfortunate. And, you don't want to, it's not here to say that I'm not trying to diss anyone. I'm really not. And I'll take anyone that will get on the mats. And if you're good or not, that shouldn't be in the way of you bothering to go out there and to put it on the line and to test yourself.
Yep.
So I'm completely and utterly for everyone to go out there and do it. However, if someone goes and they look at a jiu-jitsu competition that's got black belts and what have you, and it looks, like these are serious people, regardless of what you think about jiu-jitsu, and if they turn to your tournament and it's a catch one and it's full of a bunch of sloppy, out of shape, overweight guys
Mm-hmm.
who are mediocre at wrestling and mediocre at submissions, it doesn't make the NCAA All American go, oh, this looks like a legitimate endeavor. It makes them think like, oh, well, this is what like the D&D kids do when they're not in their basement.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I've got some personal experience of that because I've spent a long time in HEMA, in historical European martial arts, trying to recreate it. And there's this real dichotomy between the guys that just kind of think fighting
Mm-hmm.
is cool in a kind of weird academic sense, but love the history and the manuscripts and dressing up and stuff. And there's the guys that just want to fight, don't give a shit. And it's kind of that mix of the two, and it does put people off, And there's almost if you get really good at fighting, then you're kind of pushed out of that community, and it catches a little bit too
This is
close to that.
yes, and that's 100%, and that's a huge dilemma here. And Dehema is a great example because, like you said, you get too good at fighting, then they get all upset because HEMA was something, if we really look at it, it was probably started by people that were more interested in anthropology than actually being a martial artist. This is the same folks that still want to argue with you about how effective Kung Fu is. It's just,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, all your TMA bullshito of Aikido and everything, it doesn't work. Go
Yes.
watch my martial arts journey or whatever. I forget his
Yeah.
name.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Doesn't
Rockcast, is
work.
it? Yeah.
It,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, doesn't
I,
work. It just doesn't work. I'm
yeah.
sorry. It got thrown into the realm of theory to such a degree that it started operating in a vacuum because it refused to go out there and actually engage with the untrained and the trained alike
Yes.
that were distinctly different from what they did, not under the canopy of their martial arts organization, teaching and dojo, and so on. And HEMA, like first time I ever really saw HEMA in action, I was there with Cold Steel Knives and watching them in their Cold Steel Challenge as they're using fencing masks and gloves, and they're not using steel for this one, but they're going after each other and
Yeah.
marking. They want real stabs and cuts and hacks. And I'm watching the HEMA guys like constantly debate over like whether it was too hard or this, and then watching a group of them go over a German manuscript on stand-up grappling and watching them and just going like, you guys suck. You have no idea what you're doing. I don't even. There's no way that you can actually understand this manuscript. But I'm watching you, and none of your shit's going to work from someone that is a master at stand-up grappling. And then, if pushed, I know the response though isn't going to be, well, okay, I guess we better figure out a new way of doing this and a new way of even approaching these manuscripts. No, it's going to be like, well, you're a jerk. That fighting isn't everything. You're like, well, if there's no
What you're
martial
doing
in
to
your
sport.
yeah, well, if there's no
Yeah.
martial in your martial arts, then you
Yeah.
have nothing.
Yes.
Do anything else, but don't call it. But everybody that does martial arts loves and is drawn to the fact that this is actual combat applicable things, even if they don't really want to get into combat. But the sad thing is, I'm sorry, you can't apply combat if you've never been in combat, and incorrectly applied combat skills is trash, and it
Yeah.
just gets people killed, which is why over time things get um, what is it things get improved upon, but also things get increased in efficiency because they find out what's useful and what isn't. And if the guy showing a double leg in the old German manuscript is looking down at the ground, telling him to look up because it's better in terms of positional mechanical stability, that doesn't disregard the manuscript. Also realize that people were doing the best of what they had. If they
Yeah.
could have taken a photo, maybe that would have been better.
Well,
If
yeah,
you were able to
absolutely.
take this guy up, yeah.
And
So,
I mean, there's one of the manuscripts. I don't know if you've come across it. I-33. It's a sword and buckler manuscript, but clearly the guy that wrote the techniques is not the guy that drew the pictures.
mm.
And he wrote the techniques after he'd had the pictures drawn, and he's literally saying this picture's wrong. But a lot of the manuscripts don't say that. So you're looking at that picture and you're going, well, we're going to assume it's right.
Mhm.
But if he's just described a position to somebody, maybe the guy doing the double leg in the German manuscript has got his head up when he does it, but the guy drawing the picture just didn't picture it in his mind that way. So
Yeah, and then
yeah,
and I'm looking across the room there, and as a dyed-in-the-wool Warhammer tabletop gaming Magic the Gathering playing D&D dork himself, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I know every single one of these people, and not a single one of them wants to actually get drenched in sweat and get socked in the
yeah,
face and thrown on their back. Like, but if you can't do that, then I don't know how far you're really going to get with any of this. And it's that's why learning how to fall is the first lesson in judo, because once you get to that, you can do a lot. You can
yeah,
go and go and go and be safe. But if you don't want to get physical, then this isn't going to be good for you.
yeah,
And I see a lot of this in catch wrestling where a lot of people want to be masters, they want to be experts, they want to tell everyone what to do, but yet they don't have any successes to themselves. They don't really want to get on the mats. Their students really don't compete, and so what is it then? And
yeah,
it's just not conducive. And sadly, it makes the rest of us that do go out there and compete look bad. And, we're trying to show you that there is a lot of legitimacy to everything that we do. But if the representatives themselves often are illegitimate, then it's tough. It's a constant battle amongst itself when some of these people, they need to just drop their egos and get the hell out of the way,
yeah,
or join or admit that they have a long way to go, and they need to get in with those that are making it happen, not so that they can be underlings per se, but so that they can get a part of this and then learn how to improve themselves and up their own levels
Yeah.
and have a higher level of capability in what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a line my BJJ coach uses all the time, which is the rising tide floats all the boats at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly true. If anybody raises catch up, we all improve, right? It's better for everyone.
But remember, it wasn't what, maybe 6, 7 years ago, we had a particular individual gathering just a few athletes and then using them more in a sense to try to degrade, take down, undermine, and really caused a huge problem
Yes.
and a giant, just mudslinging,
Yeah.
stupid affair of which even some of the folks involved in it back then have since recanted and said how absolutely idiotic it was.
Yeah.
And yet, but that's kind of what happens, and it's like that. There's that goofy meme based on The Simpsons where it says, it talks about it's groundskeeper Willie is saying, "Oh, brothers and sisters, they're like cats and dogs, they're natural enemies, like
Yeah.
Scots and the Irish, Scots and the Japanese, Scots and other Scots." And it was just like catch
Yes.
wrestlers and this, catch
Yeah.
wrestlers and that, catch wrestlers and catch wrestlers. And when that's what you get noted for, it's not a good thing. There's always going to be enough infighting no matter what, but that was just petty and stupid, and it didn't bring any real fruits out of it. And what's so
Yes.
funny is, at the end of the day, I still sent my athletes to go compete. Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to
Yeah.
be the person that pushes things forward as
Yeah.
much as I can and with whatever ability I have to me.
Yeah, I must admit, that's if there's anything about catch that I really hate, it's that. I can put on a tatami t-shirt and walk
Mm-hmm.
down the road, and somebody I've never met will stop me, and we'll have a chat because he's seen the t-shirt. Oh, you do jiu-jitsu? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately you put on a catch wrestling t-shirt, and people's first thought is, well, it's not proper catch. It's like, oh God, shouldn't we be helping each other? Maybe I am shit, but at least
Yeah.
I'm telling people about it. I'm spreading the word. You know, I,
Well, the tatami shirt comes from the fact that you actually show up at a gym. Well, it's not a catch gym. It's like you don't wrestle at all, so
yeah,
your opinion's invalid. Like if you don't get on the mats, you don't actually have an opinion that is going to be considered by me at least. Like
yeah.
I'm going to disregard what you have to say because you're not actually out there being a part of the process. You're out there just serving yourself, as far as I can tell. And um, this world championships coming up, I think a lot is going to come from it. I really do believe. I mean, we have gathered a team finally, and we are trying to raise funds to send an American team with not just some MMA guys and things. We have a four-time collegiate All-American heavyweight,
Okay,
two-time national champion in Tony
okay.
Nelson. We
That
have
that'll
Brett
be
Farr, who
interesting.
wrestled for the University of Minnesota. He's
Yeah,
also a multiple All-American. I mean, these are international level wrestlers. Got another guy who's 3-0 in catch and training with me down here in California, David Waters. He wrestled at Montana State Northern. He is a NAIA collegiate wrestler, wrestled in high school as well, and training MMA here and there, but mainly he's getting back into grappling, competing again. Then we've got guys like Victor Henry, Spike
yeah.
Carlisle, John Kim. They're all MMA guys with wrestling and grappling backgrounds. And we have Svetomir Todorovic, who's a Bulgarian MMA guy, but he has competed, and I think he's an IMMAF European champion in amateur
Okay,
MMA, makes his pro debut here in September. But the main thing is we're just putting a team together and getting them over there to compete in the spirit of goodwill and competition to raise the levels. And like you said, raise all boats. And, one of the first people to reach out to me about this was Chris Lomas, who is I think he's a two-time champ now for Snake Pit in the Worlds.
yeah,
And he's like, I really hope you guys come over. He really wants to get on the mats with Tony, probably me again if he could. Anyone. Why? Because he wants to compete. Because he's
yeah,
about being out there and doing it. Although I'm sorry, I did say kung fu doesn't work, Chris. It's not to be offensive to you, but but I also love the fact that, you know, this guy, he's doing it for the time that's available to do it, and getting out there. And I really back it.